Are e-readers better than books? Does listening to the audiobook count as reading? Did book talk ruin the book community? These are questions that have been dividing readers for years. So today we'll be discussing bookish debates. Some of these issues I feel more strongly about than others, but we'll look at both sides of each issue and settle these once and for all. So let's get into it. Does listening to the audiobook count as reading the book? Those who say yes argue that the person listening still comprehended every word of the book and knows the full story, just as someone who read it. They might also argue that there's no point in reading the book afterwards since the person would already know the story and what happened, so it might as well count as reading. Or at the very least, they can cross it off of their TBR. Now, on the other hand, those who say no, listening to the audiobook does not count as reading the book, would say that, well, no words were read. A book was not physically picked up. No page was turned. You get the point. Now, where do I stand on this one? Me personally, I'm a literal person, so I'm gonna have to go with no. Listening to the audiobook does not count as reading the book. If we look at the definition of reading, I find it hard to understand how someone could argue that someone who listened to the audiobook should be able to say they read the book. However, I do not think that someone who read the book is any better than someone who listened to the audiobook version. If you listened to the audiobook, you should still be able to show up to the book club meeting about the book. You can still, of course, rate and review the book, things like that. It's not a big deal. But ultimately, I'm going to go with no. You can't say you read the book if you only listened to it. Now, an even harder question to answer is someone who only listens to audiobooks allowed to call themselves a reader? Y'all let me know what y'all think. At number two, we have the question, did book talk ruin the book community? Honestly, I'm not sure what people who say yes, book talk did ruin the book community would argue. Perhaps they would say that it made reading more performative or that it caused readers to critique books less honestly as they have an audience on social media they are afraid to shake. Or maybe they would argue that it's the same books recommended over and over on TikTok. But I don't know. I feel like the pros outweigh any potential cons here. TikTok has probably exposed thousands of people who would have never picked up a book to the reading community. It's allowed authors who maybe didn't have a big budget to promote their great books to still have access to an audience they can market to. And it's also allowed people who normally would have had to go and get a 9 to 5 that they are not passionate about to be able to make a living off of reading, which is great, especially in a time where we are quite literally in a literary and reading crisis. So it's a win for book talk if it were up to me. This next one, I'm genuinely interested to see what y'all think. But the question is, what is the perfect length for a book? Is the perfect book length 75 pages, 200 pages, 400, 700? What is it? I think a perfect read is 325 to 450 pages. I'm not picking up anything longer than that. I'm sorry. However, I will pick up a novella if it's a holiday read because I'm busy during the holidays and I love reading books related to the holidays, but I don't normally have the time. So I definitely don't mind a shorter read if it's a holiday read. But what do y'all think? Am I missing out? I know there's a popular sapphic book that is over 800 pages, and I love a sapphic read, but y'all, 800 pages? Do we really need all that? I hate the concept of missing out on a book because of its length, so please convince me to pick this one up, but it must feel great to finish a book that long. I'm overwhelmed just thinking about it though. Not to mention the size. Like it must be like several books combined size wise. I mean, no, that's not happening. I'm sorry. At number four is a bookish debate that I actually feel quite passionate about, to DNF or to not DNF a book. So DNF stands for did not finish, meaning you started reading a book and did not finish it. A lot of people feel that if they paid for the book, they have to finish it, whether they are enjoying the book or not, because the money was already spent, which I get. While others might finish it despite not enjoying it in hopes the second or third part of the book gets better or makes the first half worth reading. But then there's people like me, and I say, I don't care if you're 50 pages in. If you're not enjoying it, put that book down and pick up another. We only have so much time left on this earth. It's actually funny because I used to force myself to finish reading a book even if I wasn't enjoying it, but I'm glad to say I'm not that person anymore, y'all. And no, it does not have to be a complete waste. A lot of bookstores have book swap nights where you can bring in books that you don't want anymore and trade them with other folks. I know a local bookshop in my area that hosts this type of event for free. So I promise it's okay to put down a book you are struggling with. You do not have to suffer. I actually saw a post recently on Instagram that was talking about, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was talking about the amount of books that we can read compared in our lifetime compared to the amount of books actually published. And it was such a small number in comparison, which just makes each book that you pick up that much more important because you only have so much time. So if that first sentence isn't good enough for you, close it. Okay. Moving on to our next bookish debate. E-readers versus books. Is one better than the other? Pros of an e-reader. Most of the time it's easier to travel with. It's often lighter and you don't have to worry about messing up a book by throwing it in a bag with a bunch of other things. Another pro, often they do save money in the long run as the e-reader version of the book is normally cheaper, at least for the types of books I read. Another pro, no book light is needed when reading at night. Another pro, reading is easier on your side as you're like laying down, as only one hand is needed. And yet another pro is that it adds an extra layer of fun when you're able to customize it with cute covers and cute stickers, that type of thing. I've also seen people online say that they read faster with ebooks and find them less intimidating when starting a book that might look overwhelming and super long in person. Now, pros of reading the physical copy of a book. Studies have shown that a person's reading comprehension levels are higher when reading the actual hard copy of a book, which I do get. That is very valuable, especially in today's society. Another pro, you can easily share the book with someone else, a neighbor, whatever. Additionally, some might argue it makes reading more accessible as you don't have to buy a phone, a laptop, or an e reader to read a book. Library cards are indeed free. Another thing, a lot of e-readers don't have color, so the physical copy lets you see the cover in its fullest form, and it's especially more enjoyable if you're reading a graphic novel or a picture book that has color in it. Also, this is small, but you can actually put a physical copy on your bookshelf or a wall, which is so satisfying. But with all of this said, where do I stand? Personally, I enjoy both and would not want to get rid of either. However, let's do some books on the ground journalism and see if I've read more physical books or more digital books. And I'll give a point to whichever side I've participated more in. Okay, let's count the books first. Should I include books on my TBR show? No, I haven't read them. That's not fair. I haven't read them. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. You can't see these, but 28, 29, 30. Am I missing any books? I am. My current read is over there. 31? I feel like I'm probably missing some. Let's go with 31 though. Also, y'all, my handle is your favorite tomboy for a reason. I love sports. I love all things playing, watching them. So, of course, I had to get a sports cover for my Kindle. Obsessed. All right, let's see. One, two, three, four, five. Oh, wait, I have to be careful to not double count because if I like read a book on Kindle and I absolutely adored it, I will buy the physical copy, which has happened before. 28 digital books. So the point goes to hard copy. Our next bookish debate. How many books do you have to read a year to call yourself a reader? I've seen the yearly wrap ups that sound too good to be true. People reading over 100 books in a year, and I genuinely look at them like, y'all must not have a job, respectfully, because I just don't know how I could hit those numbers with one. But I do believe there are people out there who could. But the question here really is, where is the line where someone can call themselves a reader? Is someone who reads 2 books in a year a reader? Some might say yes. I mean, they did read more than someone who didn't pick up a book at all. While others would say no, 2 books is not even enough to call it a hobby. Where do I stand? The way I look at it is if you feel that those 2 books make up enough of your identity to where you want to rep the bookish community and claim it, then I don't see why you shouldn't be able to call yourself a reader. Yeah, you might not read all the time, or maybe you do and you're just a slow reader. Regardless, if you feel strongly that it's part of who you are, then who am I to tell you that you're not a reader? Next up is something that I think most people agree on, but it's the argument of shopping at your local indie shop versus a mainstream company. I've seen someone argue that their local indie shop is more expensive. Okay, see, the thing about that is that I've actually heard that books will tell you how much they are supposed to be sold for. If you look on the back of almost any book, there's normally a price printed on it, and that's the actual price that it should be sold for. So any place selling it at a price lower than that is actually losing money, but just hoping you'll buy even more things from them to make up for that loss. Now, even if this wasn't true or if that doesn't matter to you, I just feel that there's nothing better than having the time to walk around your local bookstore, coffee in hand perhaps, and just be in your own community surrounded by books that could quite literally change your life. Not to mention that, at least in my area, a lot of the indie bookstores I visit do so much extra community and social work that they do not have to do, but they do it because they genuinely support these causes. And I'd argue that the second best thing to reading a book is being able to have a bookish community, and physical brick and mortars allow for this, whether it's through specific events or simply creating a space where we can gather. So if it's up to me, I say go support your local indie shop and don't order it if possible. I understand certain circumstances lead to ordering with mainstream companies, and I get that, but I'm going to side with the local shops on this one. At number 8 is bending the corner of the book. Okay, some call it dog earing the book. Y'all, it's not deep, so I'm not going to pretend like it is. Me personally, I prefer to choose a bookmark from my cute bookmark stack. Where is it? How cute. I'd rather choose one of these bookmarks instead of creasing the page. I will throw a random object into the book rather than creasing the page. A hairbrush, I don't care. Realistically, I'm just going to take a photo of the page I'm on or write down in my notes what page I left off on. However, if you prefer to bend the corner of your book, your page, when reading it, then I do not care. It is not that deep. Next debate. At number 9, to crease or not crease the spine of a book. I prefer a gentle hold, but again, I don't care. Now, if I'm buying a book brand new, I would care if the spine and book looked folded and used, even though I probably shouldn't. But if you feel strongly about this, let me know why, because be so for real. Another smaller debate is hardcover versus softcover or paperback. I'm not going to do pros and cons for this one. It's pretty self-explanatory. Yes, hardcovers are normally more expensive, but if they weren't, and the same book for the same price was offered as both a paperback or hardcover, which version would you pick up? I'm kind of shocking myself with this one, but I'm going to go with hardcover. So those are the 10 bookish debates for today and where I stand on them, but y'all let me know how y'all feel, and if you enjoy sapphic books, you should check out these videos.